Chapter 2, Making of the Constitution. So, first, the demand for a Constituent Assembly. So, here, Emil Roy, who was a founder of Mexican Communist Party and also the Communist Party of India, was the first person to put forward the idea of the Constituent Assembly in 1934. Okay, so in 1935, Indian National Congress officially demanded a Constituent Assembly to frame the Constitution. And in 1938, Jawaharlal Nehru, on behalf of the Indian National Congress, declared the Constitution of Free India to be framed without the outside interference and on the basis of adult franchise. So this is about the first paragraph. And next, finally, in the August offer of 1940, the demand to frame the constitution was accepted. So here August offer means it was an offer made by the Viceroy Linlithgow in 1940, promising the expansion of Viceroy's Executive Council by including more Indians and the establishment of the Advisory War Council and giving full weight to minority opinion and recognition to the Indians' right to frame their own constitution. So these are the main key points of the August offer. I'll repeat it once again. So here Linlithgow made this August offer in 1940 and it promised the expansion of Viceroy's Executive Council of including more Indians, and next the establishment of Advisory War Council was made, and the other thing is giving full weightage to minority opinion and also the recognition of Indians' right to frame their own constitution. So, the Viceroy Linlithgow accepted to frame the constitution under August offer 1940. So, in 1942, Sir Stafford Cripps, who was a member of cabinet, came to India during World War II and met the Congress leaders and stated that the Constitution for Dominion of India to be adopted after the World War II. So this Cripps proposal was rejected by Muslim League, which wanted two separate constituent assemblies. So finally this Cripps mission was rejected. And next, about this August offer, what did this August offer do? It gave the rights to frame their own constitution, that is for Indians. Okay, and Cripps mission was rejected by Muslim League. Why? Because they wanted two separate constituent assemblies. Okay, and finally in 1946, cabinet mission plan was sent to India, which satisfied the Congress and the Muslim League. Okay, so the composition of the Constituent Assembly. Here, the Constituent Assembly was constituted in November 1946 under Cabinet Mission Plan. So, when did Cabinet Mission Plan was implemented? It was proposed in 1946. So, this Cabinet Mission Plan was accepted by both Congress and Muslim League. And which plan was rejected by Muslim League? It is Cripps proposal. Okay, Cripps mission was rejected by Muslim League, but however in cabinet mission plan both Congress and the Muslim League accepted to form the Constituent Assembly. So now we will learn about this composition of Constituent Assembly. So the features of this scheme are: first, the composition of Constituent Assembly was 389 seats. Okay, from these 389 seats, 296 seats were allotted to the British India. That is, whichever areas come under British. That is 296 seats, and the remaining 93 seats were allotted to the princely states. Is that clear, guys? I'll repeat it once again. Out of 389 seats, 296 seats were allotted to the British India and the remaining 93 seats were allotted to the princely states. Now this 296 296 seats which are allotted to the British India, from these 296 seats, 292 seats were given to the members of 11 governor provinces. Okay. So 11 governors provinces areas were given 292 seats, and the remaining 4 seats out of 296, the remaining 4 seats were given to the 4 chief commissioners provinces. Okay. So from 389, that is the total number of seats of Constituent Assembly, 389, 296 seats were allotted to British India. Now from this 296, 292 seats were given to 11 governors provinces, and the remaining 4 seats from this 296 seats, they are given to the chief commissioners provinces. Is that clear, guys? Okay. Now the seats for each province and princely state are allocated as per their population. Okay, whatever the seats which are given to the provinces, British India, princely states, these were allocated as per their population. Okay, now the third point is the seats allocated to each province, that is, the seats allocated to each province was divided among the Muslims, general and the Sikhs. Now here general means except Muslim and Sikhs, whatever the communities are there, they are called the generals. Okay, now the seats are allocated to are divided among these Muslims, Sikhs and the general. Okay, these are done on the basis of their population. Okay, now what is second point? Second point is the seat of each province and princely state were allocated as per their population, and here the seats, that is the third point, the seats are divided among Muslims, Sikhs and general, and these are on the basis of their population. Okay, now the fourth point is the representation of each community were elected by members of that community by single transferable vote. Now what is a single transferable vote? That is, the people directly elect their leader, whereas in India we elect local leaders and local leaders elect the higher authorities. So multiple voting will be done. So that is first past the post system, that is one type of election system, and here single transferable vote means the people directly elect their head. Okay, so that is about the single transferable vote. So here the representation of each community, so all the communities, that is, for example, Muslim community people elect directly their Muslim head. Okay, this process is called single transferable vote. Okay, the representation of each community were elected by members of that community by single transferable vote. That means direct elections. The fifth point is the representation of the princely states are nominated by head of princely states. Okay, so here the representation of princely states were nominated by the head of princely state. That means nomination is taking place. Whereas here in the fourth point, direct single transferable vote, that is direct elections are taking place. That means the Constituent Assembly is partly elected body and partly nominated body. Now where is partly elected body? It is in the representation of each community, and in the representation of princely states it is a nominated body. Okay, so this is the selection process of the Constituent Assembly, which was partly elected and partly nominated. So these are about the 93 seats that are allotted to the princely states. Now for these 296 seats of British India, the elections were conducted between July to August in 1946, and Indian National Congress won 208 seats while Muslim League won 73 seats and others 15 seats for small groups and independents. Okay, so here the of these 296 seats, INC has won 208 seats, and Muslim League won 73 seats, and other 15 were of independent and small group leaders. Okay, so here we have learnt about this British Indian provinces, that is of about 296 seats. Now let us know about this Muslims, that is which have now let us learn about this provinces, princely states. Okay, we have, as per the allocation, the princely states consists of 93 seats, and these are nominated seats. Okay, so here these seats are not filled. Why? Because they are not interested in the Constituent Assembly at the beginning. Okay, so these seats were not filled, and except Mahatma Gandhi, that is, all the important personalities were included in this Constituent Assembly. Okay, except Mahatma Gandhi, all other important leaders were included in this Constituent Assembly. Okay. So next is about the working of the Constituent Assembly. So after the completion of the entire election process, the Constituent Assembly first held its meeting in December 9th, 1946. Okay, the Constituent Assembly first held its meeting on December 9th, 1946. So the Muslim League boycotted the meeting and insisted a separate state for Pakistan. Okay, they joined at the beginning, but they boycotted the meeting because they wanted a separate state of Pakistan. Finally, 211 seats, that means the princely states did not join, and the Muslim League, even though had seats in the beginning, they did not attend the meeting. So they boycotted because they wanted a separate state. So the provinces states did not attend, and also the Muslim state also did not attend. That means only the British Indian provinces seats were filled in the Constituent Assembly. Okay. So finally 211 members attended to the first meeting of Constituent Assembly. Okay. So here later on, Sachidananda Sinha, who was the oldest member, was chosen as a temporary president of the assembly, and later Dr. Rajendra Prasad was elected as a president of assembly, and V.T. Krishnamachari and H.C. Mukherjee were elected as vice presidents of Constituent Assembly. Okay, so Dr. Sachidananda Sinha, who is the temporary president, he was the oldest member, so he was elected as the temporary president. This was a French practice. Okay, so the first elected president is Rajendra Prasad. Okay, now let's learn about these objective resolutions. So now, on which date the Constituent Assembly first meeting was held? It was held in December 9th, 1946. Okay. The objective resolution was passed on December 13, 1946. Okay. The first meeting of Constituent Assembly was held in December 9th, 1946, and the objective resolution was moved by Jawaharlal Nehru on December 13, 1946. Is it clear, guys? Okay. So, this objective resolution laid down the guidelines to frame the Constitution of India. Okay, the main theme of objective resolution is to frame a guidelines for Constitution. Okay, so the first, some of the important points of this are: first, the Constituent Assembly will proclaim India as an independent, sovereign republic and will have a constitution for the future governance. There is a first guideline, that is, the Constituent Assembly will proclaim India as an independent sovereign republic and will have a constitution for future governance of India. That means the Constituent Assembly should have a thought that the country is an independent, should think that while framing a constitution, it is an independent sovereign republic and will depend on the constitution for its future governance. So based on this guideline, they should frame a constitution. The second is the territories which come under the British India, the states which now form Indian states, and the areas which are outside India, and the states or areas which want to join independent sovereign India will be the union. Okay, whichever states or whichever areas want to join in India can join in India and form the union of all of them. Okay, that is the reason India is the union of territories. Okay, so it will be the union of all of them. Okay, that means the British territories, the Indian states outside India, and the areas which want to join India can join and form union of territories. Okay, this is about the second guideline to frame the constitution. And the third is all the territories in India with their boundaries and or newly formed boundaries as part of as per Constitution of India shall possess autonomous status and can administer as per Constitution, except in some areas where the power is with the Union. Okay, so every area within the Union territory can administer as an autonomous body. Okay, but some areas have major control from the union. Okay, this is about the third guideline of the constitution. And the fourth is all the powers of the government are derived from the people of India. This is the major important guideline to frame the Constitution of India. That's why we can also see in the preamble, we the people of India do hereby adopt. All this will be coming. Okay, so all the powers of the government are derived from the people of India. And next is all the people of India are guaranteed with justice, social, economic and political, equality of status and opportunity before the law, freedom of thought, expression, belief, faith, worship, vocation, association and action, subject to law and public morality. So these are some of the guidelines. So all the people should guarantee justice, social, economic and political, equality of status and opportunity before the law, freedom of thought, expression, belief, faith, worship, vocation, association and action, subject to law and public morality. So some of these aspects are directly added in the preamble. You can see when you study preamble, some same line to line is implemented in that preamble. Okay, next the sixth point is more safeguards will be provided to the minorities, backward and tribal areas and depressed and backward classes. So this we can see in schedule 5 and 6. So more safeguards will be provided to minorities, backward and tribal areas and also the depressed and the other backward classes. This is one of the important guideline. And the seventh guideline is integrity. Integrity means the state being united. Okay, integrity will be maintained in India and the rights over land, sea, air will be there according to the justice. Is it clear, guys? So other guideline is integrity will be maintained and the rights over land, sea, air will be according to the justice. So next, the eighth guideline is India will contribute to promotion of the world peace and welfare of mankind. So these are some of the 8 important guidelines which are framed by objective resolution to the Constitution of India, and this objective resolution was unanimously adopted by Constituent Assembly on 22nd January 1947. Now on which date Jawaharlal Nehru moved objective resolution in Constituent Assembly? It is on December 13th. Okay, on December 9th what happened? Constituent Assembly held its first meeting. Okay, on December 9, 1946, Constituent Assembly's first meeting was held, and it was boycotted by that Muslim League, and also provincial states did not attend Constituent Assembly. Only with 211 members, Constituent Assembly first meeting was held. And the objective resolution was moved on December 13, 1946 by Jawaharlal Nehru. Now, what is this objective resolution? These are the guidelines to frame the constitution. Okay, so we have learned the 8 important guidelines of the objective resolution, and this resolution was finally adopted on January 22nd, 1947. Okay, is that clear, guys? So the next is changes by the Independence Act. So before the formation of Constituent Assembly, when did Constituent Assembly form? December, 1946 it was formed, and in December 9th, 1946 first meeting was held. Okay, so before the formation of this Constituent Assembly, the princely states got 93 seats. We know that. Muslim League got 73 seats, and that British Indian provinces got 289. Okay, 1 minute. British Indian provinces got 289 seats. One second, guys. Yes, British Indian provinces got 296 seats. Okay, and Muslim League got 73 seats, and 15 seats were won by small groups and independents. Okay, so 93 seats were from princely states, and in the Constituent Assembly, first they did not attend the meetings, they did not participate, these princely states, but they later on slowly started joining the Constituent Assembly. On 28th April 1947, 6 states representatives joined, and after Mountbatten Plan on June 3rd, 1947, all the other princely states joined, and even the Muslim League also joined the Constituent Assembly. Okay, before this Muslim League did not join, and the princely states also did not join, but later on, from April 28, 1947, 6 states started, 6 representatives of 6 states joined, and later on they started to join, and also the Muslim League also joined. So finally, the Indian Independence Act 1947 made 3 changes. The first change is, as per the 1947 Indian Independence Act, the assembly was made a sovereign state. Okay, sovereign means independent. Okay, India can also change or cancel any law which is made by the British as per this law. The second is, I'll repeat first again. As per Indian Independence Act 1947, the assembly was made sovereign state, that is independent state, and also the India can also change or cancel any law which is made by the British. Now the second is, the Constituent Assembly was assigned with 2 functions. One is the making of laws for making constitution, that is making laws for constitution, and enacting the ordinary laws for country. So even the Constituent Assembly had a role to administer the country after the partition. Okay. So the Constituent Assembly was assigned with 2 functions, making laws for constitution and enacting the ordinary laws for the country. So making the laws was called constituent body. Okay, making the laws of to constitution was called constituent body, and it was chaired by Dr. Rajendra Prasad. And next, enacting the laws for India, that is ordinary laws for India, was called the legislative body. So it was headed by G.V. Mavlankar. Okay, the constituent body was headed by Rajendra Prasad, and the legislative body was headed by G.V. Mavlankar. Now what is constituent body? It is making laws for the constitution, and legislative body means implementing ordinary laws to our country, okay, for governance. So this legislative body was headed by G.V. Mavlankar, and constituent body was headed by Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Okay, so the two functions of the Constituent Assembly was continued till November 26, 1949. So on November 26, 1949, the making of constitution was over. That is the reason this continued till November 26, 1949. Is it clear, guys? So this is about the functions of the Constituent Assembly. And next, the third point is, after the partition, the Muslim League withdrew from the Constituent Assembly. So the total number of seats became again from 389 to 299 seats. Okay, after the withdrawal of Muslim League, again the seats became 299 out of 389. So the first meeting was held by only the British provinces, and next that the first meeting was boycotted by Muslim League, and princely states did not attend. And later on, from April 1946, they started to join. Okay, after they started joining, it was filled again. After partition, the Muslim League did not attend the meetings. So these are about the changes of Independent Act. And next is the other functions which are performed are, first is it remained in Commonwealth as an independent country from May 1949. Okay, before it was in Commonwealth, where it comes under from, so before partition it was under the British control. So under British control it was in Commonwealth. So after even India became independent, it remained in Commonwealth. Okay, so next is it adopted national flag on July 22nd, 1947, and adopted national anthem on January 24th. National anthem and national song were adopted, and also first president was elected on January 24, 1950. Is that clear, guys? So the Constituent Assembly held 11 sessions. Total sessions of Constituent Assembly are 11. The first meeting of Constituent Assembly was on December 9th, 1946. Now what happened on December 13, 1946? Objective resolution was moved by Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, now what is objective resolution? These are the guidelines to frame the constitution. Okay, so this is about the process. Okay, overall 11 sessions were held by the Constituent Assembly in 2 years, 11 months and 18 days. So the constitution makers referred to 60 countries' constitution, and the total expenditure amounted was 64 lakh rupees. So on Jan 24th, 1950, how many things were adopted on Jan 24th, 1950? National anthem was adopted, national song was adopted, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad was elected as the first president on this date itself. Okay, so on this day, Constituent Assembly held its final session. Okay, but it continued as the parliament till first general elections in 1951 to 52. So if Constituent Assembly will not be present, then who will administer? So for administration purpose, it remained as it acted as a parliament till the first general elections happened. Okay, the first general elections happened between 1951 to 1952. So this is about the other functions, and the next is committees of the Constituent Assembly. So different committees were formed for making the constitution. So there were 8 major committees. The first is Union's Power Committee, which was headed by Jawaharlal Nehru. Union Constitution Committee, Jawaharlal Nehru Provincial Committee. So these are all subcommittees and committees, 8 major committees. So drafting committee was headed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So these are all the major committees. And next is steering committee. Steering committee is headed by Dr. Rajendra Prasad. These are some of the important committees. Okay, that is drafting committee and steering committee, and also Union Powers Committee and Union Constitution Committee. So these are some of the major committees, and these are some of the minor committees. Okay, so next, drafting committee. So it is one of the most important committee, which was set up on August 29th, 1947. Okay, it consists of 7 members. We have to remember this, like it consists of 1 plus 6 members. One is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He is the chairman. So 1 plus 6 members. So Gopalaswamy Iyengar, Alladi Krishnaswamy Iyer, K.M. Munshi, Syed Muhammad Sadullah, and N. Madhava Rao, and T.T. Krishnamachari. These were the members of the drafting committee. Okay, so the first draft of constitution was published in February 1948. Drafting committee was set up on which date? It was set up on August 19th, 1947. Okay, so it first published its draft on February 1948, and it gave 8 months time to the people to discuss and propose amendments, and later on second draft also was proposed in October 1948. Okay, so drafting committee took less than 6 months to prepare its draft. So in all, drafting committee sat only for 141 days. So now the enactment of the constitution. So here Dr. B.R. Ambedkar introduced final draft of constitution in assembly in November 4, 1948. Okay, so first reading was introduced, and the second reading started on November 15th, 1948 and ended on October 17th, 1949. Okay, so third reading was started on November 14, 1949, and finally, with many amendments and many changes, the draft of the constitution was passed on November 26, 1949. Okay, that is the reason here this day is celebrated as the Constitution Day. Okay, November 26, 1949. So out of 299 members of Constituent Assembly, 284 members signed the Constitution. Okay, the number of the members present in the Constitution Assembly was 299, and 284 members signed the Constitution. Thus, our Constitution was adopted on November 26, 1949, and it contained the preamble, 395 articles, and 8 schedules. Okay, thus Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the then law minister, is recognized as the father of Constitution of India, and he was known for his logical, forceful and persuasive arguments, and is an undisputed leader of the scheduled castes and the chief architect of Constitution of India. He is also called the modern Manu. Okay, these are about the Constitution framings and readings, and next is enforcement of the Constitution. So the provisions of the citizenship, election, provisional parliament, temporary and transitional provinces, and the short titles present in Article 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 60, 20, 324, 366, 367. So all these articles came into force on November 26, 1949. Okay, I'll tell in detail about these articles. First is Article 5. It is the citizenship at the commencement of constitution. The sixth article is right to citizenship of certain persons who have migrated to India from Pakistan. And seventh article is rights of citizenship of certain migrants to Pakistan. And eighth article is rights of citizenship of certain persons of Indian origin residing outside India. And ninth is persons voluntarily acquiring citizenship of foreign state shall not be the citizens of India. And next, the sixth article is oath and affirmation of president. 68th article. 342 is related to the scheduled tribes, and 366 is definitions, 367 is interpretations, and here 379 and 380, 391 are repealed. Okay, so 392 article is the power of president to remove all the difficulties, and also the 399 deals with the short titles. Okay, so this is about the articles which were enforced during the when the Constituent Assembly was passed. Constitution was passed on November 26, 1949. And next is the remaining provisions came into force on January 26, 1950. Now, even though our constitution was passed on November 26, 1940, but why it came into force in January 26, 1950? Because this date was chosen as a Republic Day because in the year 1930, Purna Swaraj Day was celebrated. Okay, that means in December 1929 there was a Lahore session, and in that Lahore session Jawaharlal Nehru said that Purna Swaraj, that means complete independence, will be celebrated. Independence Day will be celebrated on January 26, 1930. So in the remembrance of that Purna Swaraj, this constitution was enforced, that is came into force on January 26, 1950. Is that clear, guys? Actually, Constituent Assembly should come into force on January 26, 1949 itself, but in the remembrance of Purna Swaraj, this Constitution came into force on January 26, 1950, and this day is also celebrated as the Republic Day. So these are and also the abolition of Privy Council Jurisdiction Act was continued. Now, what is this Privy Council Jurisdiction Act means? See, actually there was a right to appeal to the Judicial Committee on secret matters, that is our personal matters also can be written in the for justice. Okay, so here this Judicial Committee was actually in London from federal. So whatever case we file, this right to appeal, there was a right to appeal to Judicial Committee of Privy Council in London from Federal Court of India. So actually I'll tell it once again. There was under this Privy Council Jurisdiction Act 1914 Act, there was a right to appeal to Judicial Committee of this Privy Council in London from Federal Court of India. Okay, so under this act, the Privy Council jurisdiction was abolished. Why? Because we have an independent judicial authority. So on that basis, this Privy Council Jurisdiction Act was abolished. Okay, so it continued. This act continued, and no changes were made regarding the abolition of Privy Council Jurisdiction Act 1949. Okay, so this is about this one, and next is experts committee. Experts committee of the Congress. Okay, so when the elections of the Constituent Assembly was in progress, Indian National Congress appointed an experts committee for the purpose of preparing material for Constituent Assembly. Okay, it consists of all these 8 members, and later on the chairman of the Constituent Assembly proposed Krishna Kriplani. Okay, Krishna Kriplani, and he was appointed as the member and convener of the committee. Okay, this experts committee was held in 2 sittings. First was held at New Delhi from July 20 to 22nd 1946, and the second sitting was held at Bombay. These are why this experts committee was held. The main reason is to prepare the material of Constituent Assembly. That's it. Okay, so the chairman of this is Krishna Kriplani. That's it. Nothing more important. And here the first session was upon the questions regarding the appointment of various committees and draft of resolutions on objectives of constitution, which was all these that is appointment of various committees, draft of resolution and objectives were moved under this experts committee. That's it. Nothing more important about this. And next is here Granville Austin. He was a British constitutional expert. He said that the Congress Experts Committee that set India on the road to her present constitution, the committee members working within the framework of the Cabinet Mission scheme made general suggestions about autonomous areas and powers of provincial governments and the centre, and about such issues as the princely states and the amending power. So they also drafted a resolution closely resembling the objective resolution. Okay. Next is the criticism of the Constituent Assembly. So many of them criticized our Constituent Assembly because of some of the loopholes. We will study about this. So first is, the critics said that the Constituent Assembly members were not directly elected on the basis of universal adult franchise. Yes, because our Constituent Assembly was partly elected and partly nominated body. Okay. So it was not a representative body. Yes, but it was partly elected and partly nominated. And the second is, as our Constituent Assembly held its sessions with the permission of the British Parliament, they called it as not a sovereign body. Why? Because of the permission of the British, we have implemented meetings, we have enacted the meetings. So for that, they said that it is not a sovereign body. And the third is, they said that the Constituent Assembly took very long time to frame the constitution, whereas the American constitution took only 4 months to complete the constitution. So even Nasiruddin Ahmad, he is one of the member of Constituent Assembly itself. He said that he said that drafting committee as a drifting committee. Okay, to express his contempt. Okay, the fourth criticism is Granville Austin remarked that the Constituent Assembly contained only one party body, and said that it was dominated by the Congress. So the fifth is, they also said that the Constituent Assembly was dominated by lawyers and politicians, and said that the other sections of the society were not sufficiently represented. And the other point is, Lord Viscount Simon called it a body of Hindus, and Winston Churchill called the Constituent Assembly represented only one major community in India.